All right, welcome back to Game Grid Spring Championship Top 8. We have Spencer playing against Zach here. Spencer is the second seed and Zach is the third seed. So Spencer's on the play. And it looks like Spencer brought blue-white from his draft, whereas Zach is over here with what looks like Rakdos. So led off with it looks like a Senate Guild Mage and then an Azorius Locket, whereas Zach has led off with 2 Guild Gates and no plays yet. That is a Colt Guild Mage from Zach. Going to be a little slower on the card names here, as I'm not super familiar with all of the commons and uncommons in this set. And there is a little bit of glare, unfortunately. Sorry about that. So, it looks like it's Spencer's turn. Zach missed a land drop, and Spencer's getting in with his Guild Mage. Because of his locket, he's actually a little ahead on mana. We'll see if he has a land drop to follow up this attack. They trade Guild Mages. And there's the land drop from Spencer. And he plays an Azorius Night Arbiter. This is a 2/5 that cannot be blocked. So far as drafting fundamentals go, Spencer's a little ahead with the fact that he's not missing his land drops. He's able to play out his cards. Zach looks like he's in a little bit of trouble. This is a Smelt Ward Ignis, I believe is what it's called. It's a 2/1 that has the ability to active treason an opponent, where you sacrifice the Ignis to take control of a creature for a turn. And here is a Humongulus. It's a 2/5 hexproof. So looks like Spencer may have drafted the heavy toughness deck that, in combination with a card like Raise the Alarm, can be very effective and very strong. So, no, I muted it for a second. Sorry about that, Paul. So, I'm not sure what this vampire is called, but it's a 3/1, and you can sacrifice a creature to make it unblockable from Zach. So this is Ken, and I'm here commenting with Calvin. Tried out a few bonus commentators today, and it's great. Oh, I'm sorry, this is labeled as standard. This is now Guilds of Ravnica. No, not guilds, sorry. Ravnica Allegiance draft. What's the Ravnica Allegiance tag? Is it RGA? RNA?
I believe so.
Makes sense. Alright, so that is a Senate Courier. It's a 2/3 with flying and Afterlife 1. So Spencer with a real strong presence here. Board presence. Definitely for these low toughness creatures, they're going to have a hard time attacking through these 2/5s or even blocking them. So Calvin, what, just in general, what is a red-black deck looking to do against a blue-white deck?
Kill him quick and kill him quick and kill him quick. That's about it. For any aggro deck against anything that's a little bit slower, you really want to focus on getting straight underneath the curve of the slow deck, obviously. But seeing as Spencer is at 20 health, it seems like that plan hasn't gone quite according to theory. But you never know. These aggressive decks sometimes can pull things out of their rear end, but.
So there is a Smeltwork Ignis taking control and then sacrificing the Senate Courier. Nice little combo there. He effectively is just trading off his Ignis with the Courier, but I think that's a pretty effective trade, and he does get a Spirit and 3 damage out for bonus. That is a Vidalkin. It's a 2/1. He scries 2 when it comes into play. I don't remember its name.
But it does things, and it's cool.
Humongulus coming in every turn. I've probably missed quite a bit of damage on that. Sorry. I'm gonna guess he's at 14 life. Calvin's going to double check on that for me. So Zach is really stuck on lands. He's had 3 lands this whole game after missing a land drop too. So in draft, you really want to curve out and be able to play, increasingly powerful cards as the game goes on. And Zach is very likely has stuck in his hand a few more interesting cards that he just hasn't been able to play. Whereas Spencer right now can kind of pick and choose since he's ahead. Doesn't necessarily have to commit very much, can kind of wait to see what Zach tries to do. Here's an Act of Treason, which again can act as a removal spell in combination with this vampire. So a very effective sacrifice theme. I've never actually been able to live the dream of taking control of an opponent's creature and sacrificing it, and it looks like a lot of fun. And Zach's doing a lot of good with the resources available to him. There, Spencer's had enough of this sacrifice outlet and decides to use Law Mage's Binding to trap it down. But it was already able to attack, and so it gets in there for 3. Were you able to find out what Zach's life total is?
Yeah, word from the floor is Zach's at 8.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
And this
the
Humongulus
beats-
bringing him down to 6.
Homunculus beats have been real this game.
The Homunculus with Hexproof has also prevented any kind of sacrifice shenanigans from Zach's side. So he's going to have to start
Another
going.
snag that Zach has hit is that he just can't seem to find any lands.
Yeah.
Oh, and
There
then speak of the devil. There's another land.
finally is his 4th land.
He's sitting on what looks to be 6, 7 cards in his hand, and he's going to have to get rid of a few of those if he actually wants to have a chance. But luckily, his opponent only has 2 cards. So if Zach can deal what's on the board and then push through the last chunks of damage, he does stand a fighting chance, although he'd have to play very, very well from this point to have a decent chance.
Spencer did play another card up there at top. I thought I saw a Senate Courier in his hand earlier, but I'm not sure what that is that he has there.
Want me to go tell you?
Sure.
Which card is in
It's this very top one, so furthest from us. Jordan, the owner here, is really great. So this is a Plague Rite. It's a 2/1 when it attacks. I believe it's creatures that block it get -1/-1, which is a powerful effect in the right situation. But right now it's not. Angelic Exaltation, which has essentially exalted. Yeah. Okay.
one attacker. It's
So the Humongulus is actually bigger when it attacks than what we've been
down
saying.
is the Senate.
All right. So the Humongulus attacks now for 3. So life total might actually be 6 for Zach. Oh, and there the Blade Brand, drawing Zach a card and giving the spirit Death Touch. One of the few ways to actually deal with the hexproof creature. Still in the face of the Senate Courier, Zach's in a little bit of trouble.
Still, that was a really clever play from Zach. I wonder how long he's been
Planning that.
in hand, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would have liked to have seen him play it maybe a little sooner, but I guess he was removing one by one his opponent's creatures. So Zach has made the most of light mana, and now he's only 1 mana behind Spencer. So, and the good thing about being light on mana is that you have plenty of interaction. So I know that Zach has, well, I guess that's a 6 mana card that Zach has. Maybe it's 4. He has one of that red-black split card that I think causes the opponent to discard 2 cards, which if he can play that, that'd be pretty effective. But it doesn't look like he's going to go for that. Let's skewer the critics, dealing 3 damage. Okay, that is not a Senate Courier in play. That is the 1/4 Owl that can have Vigilance if you pay white and one other. And then he finishes off with I think it's called Bedeck, a card that deals 1 damage to a creature and its controller. And
He's actually done a pretty good job of clearing Spencer's board.
yes, he has.
Spencer just dropped a heckin' big creature.
It's
Hey Jordan, how you doing?
yeah. This is we got Calvin here with me, also.
Hello.
Is that a Senate Courier that he played? So Zach is in a tough spot. Can you go double check on life totals again, since that angelic, I missed that angelic exaltation. But forced to block the 2/1 because when attacked, essentially getting exalted, it became a 3/2. But it looked like he had a Acrobat that he blocked with. And I wonder why that Acrobat wasn't able to trade off.
Life totals at the moment are 4 and 11.
Yeah, it looks like Zach scooped him up.
It's not able to get there. All right. Cool beans. Very effective life totals from the
Yeah,
floor here.
sorry about those sloppy life totals. We'll do a better job tracking that.
And so for those of you who joined late, we are currently on game.
Game 2 is about to start. We just finished game 1 of round 1 of the top 8. This is Zach and Spencer. So the way that worked is they had essentially random. You know, Paul, I'm not sure how many lands he's playing in his deck, but Magic, as we know, is a game of pure skill, and the better you are, the more likely you are to draw your lands in the order you want. So it's a very good point, Paul. So, as I was saying, they were paired up, or they sat around their table in a random order and drafted as normal, right? 3 packs. First you pass the left, second pack you pass the right, and third you pass to the left again. And after that, they play against the person who was seated furthest from them. So in a pod of 8 people, that's someone 4 seats around the table from you. And so those seats were random. And so it ended up normally in a single elimination bracket like this, you would expect to see like the first seed go against the 8th seed and go in closer to one another like this. But here we have the 3rd seed and the 2nd seed facing off. And that means Spencer got to choose to go on the play, and that's essentially the only effect of your ranking in this top 8. So Zach will likely be on the play again. We'll see if he decides to keep more lands and actually improve his game, as Paul suggests.
Really needs to work on the technical play. It's all about how you cut your deck and how you shuffle. You just got to make sure you shuffle the cards at the top, and also that your opponent doesn't actually cut your cards to the bottom, because then you're in for a hard time. Now, there's actually a lot of skill to that. It's all about how you work your fingers. So usually, for me at least, I like to do a quick warm-up, crack the knuckles, and then I win every time. So I haven't lost yet,
And
except for when I do.
no, that does not involve any kind of intentional stacking of the deck or anything like that. So
Of course, it's all unintentional.
Spencer mulliganed down to 6. It looked like he scried to the top, and Zach's lands seem to be cooperating a little bit better as he leads off with a Cult Guild Mage here. Spencer does not have the Guild Mage mirror to follow up like we saw in the first game. So this is the second game. Paul, we do not condone palming any kind of lands. Pretty disappointed to know that that's your habit. I thought better of you.
I did too, Paul. I highly expected more. I feel very betrayed.
So this is a Slime Bind from Spencer on the Guild Mage, giving it -4, -0, effectively removing it, but especially in a deck like Zach's with Sacrifice Outlets, not quite as good as an honest-to-goodness removal spell. That makes a lot of sense, Paul. That beard does look bad, so I was wondering why you have it, and I'm sorry for being rude. I'll stop it. So we have the Vidalkin that scries again. I don't remember his name again. And this Theater of Horrors from Zach is a really powerful engine that lets him exile a card at the beginning of your turn. And when Spectacle is activated, where he has dealt damage to his opponent, or anyone has dealt damage to his opponent, he can cast those cards from exile. And so underneath he has another powerful card. It looks like a Blade Juggler, where normally it's 5 mana for 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, you pay 1 life and you draw a card. But with Spectacle, it only costs 3 mana. So a lot of people think that's a very powerful common in the set. I've had a lot of success playing with it, and an effective card. Here's the Plague Rite again. This time, in this situation, matches up very well against the 2/1 on the other side of the board. Essentially cannot be blocked. Both players seem to be hitting their land drops. Zach not interested in trading off one of his creatures to save 2 life, so he goes down to 18. And 4 mana to activate maybe the Cult Guild Mage and possibly deal 2 damage to his opponent. I do believe that's what happened. Theater of Horrors exiles a mountain. I can't remember if Theater of Horrors can play lands or if it only can cast spells. Oh, this is powerful. This is a Fairy Rogue. But I'm not sure how Plague Rite interacts with this. I think Plague Rite might still give -1/-1 to the fairy and kill it, even though it gave -1/-0 to the Plague Rite. I'm not sure what this Cult Guild Mage is doing. But here's a Blade Juggler from Zach.
We're looking at Cult
Cult Guild
Mage.
Mage, yep. So I'm not sure what happened with the Plague Rite. It gives -2/-0 the fairy, doesn't it? And so they kind of just bounced off of each other. And here's an attack for 3. And Zach to 14.
So Cult Guild Mage is a 2/2 for 2. As a pay 1 black and 3, tap it, target player discards a card, activate this ability only any time you could cast a sorcery. And then his second ability is a 1 red and tap. Cult Guild Mage deals 1 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. So a little bit of chip damage here and there, or possibly be able to win the card race.
And this Theater of Horror power is pretty powerful. Another Smeltwork Ignis underneath that. We saw that Zach use that to good effect at the in the last game. And a Senate Courier from Spencer, which is a strong card. It definitely blocks this Plague Rite pretty well, as well as the Blade Juggler, seeing as how if Zach wanted to trade off either creature for the Senate Courier, Spencer would be left with a 1/1 Spirit. And this shows you the effect of Slime Bind on the game. It saved Spencer 2 life, but this Guild Mage is still here, doing an effect, having an effect on the game. You know. That is Get the Point. It's a powerful removal spell. Simply destroys a creature, and then allows Zach to scry, leaving the spirit behind as the courier dies. It's a funny conversation I had with Zach earlier. We were looking at the art on Get the Point, and he asked, is the character in the art even destroyed? He was not convinced, and so...
It's just pinned down.
Yeah, so
The art here.
the card may be not as effective as it would like you to believe it is. Looks like Zach got in for 5.
effectively removed from combat due to the fact that if he moves at least an inch, he will lose some minor injuries to his Rakdos after all.
That is a judgment card. I can't remember the first part of the name, but it deals 3 damage to a tapped creature, or 5 with addendum. So it dealt 5 to the Plague Rite. The Plague Rite would have died even to the 3, but it's relevant. And Zach getting in there for 1 damage with the Cult Guildmage. That effect fairly relevant when he's got spectacle cards like Theater of Horror, even though Theater of Horrors doesn't technically have spectacle on it. I think that is a the Goblin card that is a 0/2 that you can tap to deal 1 damage to each player. Another good spectacle enabler. Can't remember its name right now.
So for those of us that don't draft very often, is an Azorius deck focused more on control or more on out-tempoing your opponent?
So it's interesting in draft to see kind of those multiple directions that it can go. And that is one of the interesting things about drafts is each deck kind of can fill different roles depending on the stage of the game. We saw that Spencer's deck last time did feel a little more controlling, whereas this time it's definitely Zach who feels like he's more controlling, and both players are trying to get in damage when they can. Draft is more based on gaining little advantages here and there and controlling the board of your opponent.
I mean, a matchup like that, Theater of Horrors is huge because it's a constant source of card advantage for only 3 mana, effectively drawing you an extra card every turn.
Spencer here with a nice surprise in Just the Card's portal. It effectively blinks his creature. When it comes into play, he'll get to scry 2 again, and then I think once it comes into play, it either has a 1/1 counter on it or a temporary boost to power and toughness. I don't remember. Looks like it might be a temporary boost if they're not putting a die on it. But he gets to scry 2 and provide a surprise block, maybe against the Blade Juggler. Looks like maybe before blocks, Zach has something to say. He sacrifices his Goblin to destroy, with final payment, the potential blocker, and gets in for 3. And Spencer trying to decide whether to attack with his flyers or not. So if I've done my math right, both players are at 9, and then Spencer with a nice one is Azorius Knight Arbiter. We didn't. Oh, it does have Vigilance also. So it was probably dealing plenty of damage to Zach last game. And again, this is just a free 2 damage that you can deal to Zach. And this is where you see that Spencer, even though he's behind and he might want to leave back blockers for like this Blade Juggler, as he's continued to attack, now this Azorius Knight Arbiter is much more threatening and much more powerful than it would have been if it just come down as a wall. I think Spencer might be at 1 less life. I think I missed a Guild Mage activation earlier. A lot of little things going on with cards I'm not super familiar with. If you guys want to help me out, it does take us a second to update these life totals even when we're on top of it, but so here's 1 damage, probably to activate or enable the Night Arbor, or the
8 all?
8 all.
Down to
So
7.
Yeah, he just activated the H. What's that do? Zach is at 8. Probably missed an attack from his spirit earlier. Oh, we have another Guild Mage in play. This Guild Mage has proven to be pretty effective, even with the Slime Bind on it. So now this, I believe this is called a Riotous Racketeer. It's a 3/2, and I think when it gets blocked, it gets +1/+1. Or maybe, no, when it gets blocked, it deals a damage to the blocker's controller, or a planeswalker that's attacking. Oh, this is a powerful card. This is High Alert from Spencer. Oh, and makes the Night Arbor deal 5 damage. And it looks like, oh, and the Fairy deals 2. So suddenly from 8 life, feeling comfortable, Zach gets attacked for 5 from the Night Arbiter, 2 from the Fairy, and 1 from the Spirit for an exact 8. And Spencer comes in and steals game 2.
Good game.
And that's it. That is the first round of the top 8. Zach is eliminated, and Spencer moves on. Good play from both players. Zach had a little bit of trouble game 1 with his lands, but made the best of it. It looked to be coming back, but just Humongous and the Azorius Night Arbor just putting the beats. And you see here the power of Spencer and the good decision he made to keep attacking and keep dealing that damage to Zach, because he knew he didn't want to just sacrifice his creatures for no reason, leaving them back to block. And so he took the opportunity to deal damage, even though it looked like he was behind. It kept Zach low enough, and it kept him in the game more than leaving back blockers that he knew he didn't want to sacrifice. And those cards actually carried him most of the way through. In fact, they never had to block and trade or chump for a creature. So,
By the way, we've got to take a moment to appreciate the basics from Zach Miller. Quality basics.
I always gotta
That's a man
appreciate.
that cares.
Always gotta appreciate the basic plans.